This episode goes out to Sybil in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico.
Hi there, Megan Robinson here. Welcome to the 21st episode of the Nightblade Epic Podcast. Real quick, we just wanted to remind you that this book, plus the other books of Underrealm, are also available as audiobooks. 3 have come out so far, and more will be releasing soon. You can hear the entire Nightblade audiobook, plus The Alchemist Touch and Bloodlust, plus even more stories in the near future. We put a ton of work into this podcast, and picking up one of our audiobooks is the best possible way to support us. You can find our audiobooks on Audible or virtually anywhere on the internet where audiobooks are sold. Okay, now it's time for today's episode. Today, you're getting chapters 32 and 33 of Nightblade. When we left off, Lauren had struck a risky bargain with the merchant Damaris. Enjoy!
Nightblade, Chapter 32. The next morning found Lauren hiding in a back alley behind Auntie's hideout. Gray slowly filled the dark sky, the sun still some distance below the horizon. All was quiet. Jem had already swept the rooftops. They were free from any of Auntie's children. Whatever suspicion the weremage held, she clearly did not expect a frontal attack. Around her shoulders, Lauren wore her black cloak. Her fingers kept groping for the dagger at her waist, and she had to remind herself time and again that she would not find it there. Jem shifted from one foot to the other, rubbing his arms to keep warm. Gregor was there, a strange companion, and some few of his soldiers. Many more filled the alleys and side streets in all directions. Before them sat the rickety wooden fence that rimmed the pig pen out back. Damaris waited in the alley as well, standing far back behind her men, wrapped tightly in a cloak of sable. Puffs of mist erupted from the breath of everyone present, lending the air a smoky feel. "Where are they?" growled Gregor. "Dawn nears." "Be still," said Lauren. "See there." From the street by the hideout, a man approached with a torch. Beneath his brown cloak, Lauren saw the telltale sign of red leather armor, a constable sent around back to catch any runaways. Little did he or his master Byrne know how many children would flee upon their attack. "Remember," said Gregor, turning to his soldiers, "slay no guardsman. Any man who brings the king's justice upon us will be served up to it like a warm meal." His guards made no reply, only tightening their grips on their sword hilts. "They will attack soon," said Lauren, "if they are already setting a boundary." The air split with a sharp cry from one street over. There came a great crash of wood splintering, the front door laid open with a single heavy blow. Gregor did not wait, but charged from the alley's mouth. The constable before them could only gape before the captain's pommel crashed into his temple, laying him flat in the street. 2 of Gregor's men seized the guardsman by arms and legs and flung him into a dark corner. Like a rolling tide, children erupted into the night. Tens of them, dozens, all pouring through holes in the fence and into the streets. Their hunger-wide eyes grew larger at the sight of Gregor and his men rimming the house's yard. But the men ignored them, and the children melted into the vanishing darkness. Fighting erupted in the streets. Lauren saw 2 of Auntie's boys fighting a constable, and then she recognized the man as Byrne. Though he was outnumbered, the constable's skill with a blade far outmatched the clumsy swings of his opponents and their clubs. With a sudden swipe, he sliced one's cudgel in half, and the boy fell back. Byrne took the opportunity to lunge at the other, piercing him with 3 hands of steel. The boy collapsed, writhing and moaning on the ground as life spilled from his gut. The other boy fled, and Byrne ran for the front of the house. Lauren thought she might be sick. She ducked farther into the alley, trying to shrink as small as possible. She forced her eyes upon the wooden fence again as children kept pouring through it. A plank burst outward, and through the hole came a boy, then another, and then a shapely woman in a fine green cloak. "There!" cried Lauren. Auntie turned at the sound just as Gregor and his men pounced. Both her boys quailed before the fighting men, but to Lauren's relief, the guards did not kill them. One fell before a crushing blow to the face. The other traded 2 parries with a sword before he dropped his cudgel and ran. Like a striking snake, Gregor seized Auntie's cloak as she tried to flee. The weremage spun around, but she had changed. Her face had grown paler than Lauren's, her hair in long red curls. Blue eyes flashed as she feigned a look of terror, falling to her knees and wailing for mercy. Confused, Gregor loosened his grip on her cloak. Like a flash, Auntie fell back, out of his reach, and fled the street. Lauren gave a strangled cry of frustration and ran after her, ignoring Jem's frightened shout. "I told you she was a weremage, you fool!" she said as she passed Gregor. She did not wait for his reply, but followed the whipping green cloak as it rounded a corner. The next street was empty. Footsteps echoed down a side alley, and Lauren gave chase. But the alley, too, was vacant, and only a shadow passing on a far wall told her which way Auntie had gone. Gritting her teeth, Lauren ran on. Only after entering the narrow space between 2 buildings, far from Gregor's men in the torchlight of the streets, did Lauren realize she had become separated from the rest. Just as the thought came, steel flashed out of the night. Lauren fell back, ducking one swipe, but she cried out as she felt the kiss of a blade in her shoulder. "Vile little sow!" snarled Auntie. "I will gut you and keep your heart with my treasures!" Her voice had grown to something frantic and mad, a shriek entirely unlike the seductive tones of their first meeting. Her knives hissed again and Lauren backed away. Out of desperation, she pulled her hunting knife from her boot, its twisted tip pathetic against Auntie's strange weapons. "I sought not to harm you," said Lauren, brandishing the knife. "I only wanted your help." Auntie pulled her knives to her sides, waiting like a serpent to strike. Lauren saw her own blood upon one of them. "Why should I help you, sniveling child that you are? Any child of mine, fresh from the arms of his mother, knows more of the world than you. You are worthless to me, a grasping, mewling pup." Auntie sidestepped, trying to circle and block Lauren's path to escape. Lauren took several hasty steps backwards. She must not let herself be trapped. With luck, Gregor would find them. What an odd circumstance, to hope for succor from that brute, she thought. "You stole what was mine." "Yours," spat Auntie. "The would-be thief has such grand notions of property. What is yours is what you can take." At the last word, she lunged, her blades passing a hair's breadth from the bridge of Lauren's nose. Lauren nearly fell as she tried to avoid them. "Now my children are lost in the night without their mother, and so many of my boys lie dead in the street. Their blood is on your hands." If Lauren could only keep her talking. "You mean to say your hands are clean? What do you do with the girls, Auntie? The girls you raise and profess your love for, naming yourself their mother. What happens to them when they come of age?" Auntie smiled. Her face shifted for a moment, bones sliding around beneath it, as if her very soul stirred with her fury. "Boys are useful to me. I can control them. I can make them love their mother. A girl is a pretty thing to have around, a beggar to tug on the heartstrings of any merchant. But a woman who would force herself upon what is mine, they are useless to me. But come closer, and I will show you what I do with them." Lauren had nearly reached the mouth of the alley, and could see torchlight dancing at her vision's edge. Mayhap she could hope for a constable to see the fight and put an end to it. As though she had had the same thought, Auntie attacked once more. But as Lauren tried to dodge, the weremage released her hold on one knife, and the blade sped through the air towards Lauren's head. Sheer luck saved her, for at last she tumbled backwards, wincing in pain at the cut in her shoulder. Auntie's blade tangled in the hood of her cloak, and the hilt came crashing into her forehead. She saw stars for a moment, reaching up to tug the knife free from the cloth that ensnared it. It came away from her vision just in time to see Auntie coming in for the kill, her remaining knife raised high in a curled fist. Then the weremage's eyes focused above Lauren, and she stopped. Lauren heard heavy, running footsteps, and a sword swiped through the space before Auntie's frightened eyes. She stumbled back, as Lauren had, and ran into the alley's mouth. Gregor watched her go. Lauren felt her heart sink into her gut with disappointment. The fight and the deaths that came with it had been for nothing. Still, there might be some chance. "We must go to her hiding place. She will return there, hopeful of protecting her treasures." Lauren held up a hand for Gregor to help her up. The captain stared down at her, his eyes a low, burning smolder. She became suddenly aware of the sword in his hand. The silence of the street stretched for an eternal moment. "Gregor!" Gregor's eyes snapped up, joining Lauren's to find Damaris just up the street. "What of the weremage?" she said. "Escaped, my lady," said Gregor. Damaris's lips pursed. "Escaped? You had her within your grasp. I hold you accountable." "I apologize, my lady." "We may still find her," said Lauren, "if we go to her hiding place." The merchant's gaze fell to Lauren and considered it for a moment. "Very well. Make haste then, and get up off the ground, child. You soil the cloak I gave you." Lauren gained her feet, dusted herself off, and went to Damaris. She did not want to look at Gregor or see the hate that burned in his eyes. Nightblade, Chapter 33. Gregor's men gathered again near Auntie's hideout. As soon as Lauren approached, Jem pounced from the shadows, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Thank the sky and stars! I thought I would find you again only as a corpse, or not at all." "You could have come with me," said Lauren, trying to sound gruff. She patted his head once before pushing him firmly away. "I might not have nearly died then." Jem drew himself up and placed his hands on his hips. "I am not so foolish as you. When a deadly foe seeks after my life, I do not pursue her into the darkness she calls home." "Enough," snapped Damaris. "If you are right, Lauren, we must make haste. Show us the way." Lauren waved a hand at Jem. "Here is our guide. Take us to the hidey hole, Jem." Jem's eyes widened, and he looked around at them. "You wish to go there? But why? Auntie's boys—" "Will flee or be destroyed." Damaris's eyes were iron, her voice like sharpened steel. "Lead us now, or join their lot." Jem swallowed hard and looked at Lauren. She gave him a nod. Their only chance at success lay with Damaris now, and the die was already cast. Jem took them to a drainage hole, but Lauren cuffed him lightly on the head. "How will these men crawl through that, simpleton?" The boy rubbed his head and glared at her. "Am I at fault for their bloated size?" "Take us another way," said Lauren. "Have you forgotten our haste?" Jem grumbled, but he did as she asked. They found an entrance like the one they had used to escape from Auntie the night Lauren had lost her blade. Iron rungs set into the wall provided an easy way down, and the hole yawned wide enough for even Gregor's mighty shoulders. Lauren had half thought the merchant might remain behind, but she climbed down just like the rest, hitching her dress up slightly to swish a few fingers from the filthy stone floor. The moment their boots touched stone, Gregor's guards pulled torches from the walls. Jem said, "Torches will only let others see you the more easily." "We are not cravens who fear to be seen," said Gregor. "Lead on." Jem did. Again, Lauren soon grew lost amid the twists and turns, but the boy never wavered. Gregor remained close by Damaris, peering into the surrounding darkness with suspicion. Men flanked her to either side, but Damaris might have been on an evening stroll or one of her horseback rides with Lauren for all the calm she displayed. Before long, they reached the intersection that led down to the hidey hole. Jem slowed before the corner and turned. "We are almost there. We will want to be quiet." Gregor grunted and pushed Jem aside with a sweep of his mighty arm. His men drew blades and marched around the corner, brandishing their steel in the torchlight. Lauren helped Jem back to his feet and followed as quick as she could. She rounded the corner in time to see Auntie's guards flee, terrified at the sight of men in armor coming at them out of the darkness. There lay the short hallway before the hidey hole, and beyond it the huge wooden door. But she saw no sign of Auntie. "Where is she?" muttered Lauren. "With all the noise they are making, probably far away," whispered Jem. Damaris's men did not slow. Two took up positions at the hallway's mouth, while others headed off to guard the closest intersections in every direction. Gregor himself moved down the hallway towards the door. Damaris waited halfway down. Lauren paused at the hallway entrance, uncertain whether or not to proceed. Gregor glared over his shoulder at Lauren. "It is only a wooden door. We should have come here first." He tried the handle, but it did not move, so he turned and nodded to one of his men. "Break it down." The guards at the hallway's entrance left their posts and went to the door. At Gregor's direction, they backed up a pace and charged the door with their shoulders. Neither of them stood as tall or broad as Gregor, but still they brought a crushing weight against the door. It did not move. They backed away and tried again, and again. 5 times they struck, and 5 times the door held. One of the men rolled his shoulder, though he did not wince. Lauren suspected Gregor did not cultivate weakness in his ranks. The guard turned to his captain with a look of bafflement. "It does not move, sir." "I can see that," growled Gregor. "No, I mean that it does not budge at all. Wood has some give whether you can break it down or no. This has nothing. It might as well be a cavern stone wall." Lauren half expected Gregor to yell at the man in anger or mayhap strike him, but he stepped past without question, went to the door, and placed a hand against it. Then he furled a fist and sent it against the wood. He took 2 steps back and tried his own shoulder at the door. When he turned back to Damaris, he wore a dark expression. "It is as he says, my lady. I suspect some sort of enchantment. I have seen a mind mage do something like this once. If it is so, only another mind mage can break it, or the key for the lock." "And yet our little weasel of a were-mage remains unfound," said Damaris. Though her words seemed harsh, Lauren heard no trace of anger or frustration in her voice. She ran a hand up and down her neck, deep in thought. "I may know of a man, a mind mage, but he is more than a day's ride from Cabris, and if Annis is trapped within—" Just then, Lauren heard a shout and a scuffle to her right. Turning to look, she saw 2 of Damaris's men thrashing and fighting some figure. A third man joined the fray and threw a fist. The figure jerked and fell still. The guards came forwards. As they emerged into the nearby torchlight, Lauren saw skin of loam and hair like sunlight. "That may not be necessary, my lady," said Lauren. "Here comes our were-mage." Gregor's men hoisted Auntie up by her arms at the mouth of the hallway. Her eyes rolled wild in their sockets, piercing in their hate and mad as they glowed in the light of torches. They found Lauren and focused with an impossible fury. Bones shifted beneath her skin. "Hello, Auntie." Damaris stepped forwards while keeping well out of reach. "That is what you call yourself, is it not? I am Damaris of the family Yaren. Well met." Auntie spat, but it went wide and flew past the merchant's shoulder. Damaris looked at the spittle upon the stone floor and raised an eyebrow. Then she lifted her head and spat directly in Auntie's eye. The were-mage responded with a shriek of rage and a fresh bout of struggling. Gregor's fist crashed into her face. Auntie's head snapped back and she went limp. As she raised her eyes, still burning with anger and defiance, Lauren saw that her nose had broken. But in a moment, the bones of her face shifted. Briefly, she looked like someone else, someone with a sallow and pockmarked face, before she reverted to her normal visage, her nose no longer bent at an odd angle. Auntie's lips parted in a sardonic grin, and blood stained her teeth. "It is my wish that we should avoid any more such unpleasantness," said Damaris. "Tell us how to open the door." Auntie remained silent, and Lauren thought she might try spitting again. But instead she chose to ignore Damaris, looking at Lauren. "Hello, girl," she said, her voice all silky smooth as it had been when they first met. "You know, of course, that no matter what happens here, I will find and gut you. No power on earth can stop me from leaving you bloodless and bloated, floating along the sewer's current until you spill into the river. I will cross the dark veil the wrong way just to haunt you in your dreams and lead you screaming off a rooftop. I curse it in every tongue of the 9 lands." Lauren's heart chilled at the words, but she kept it from her face. Another told me something similar scarcely a week ago. I shot him with an arrow. That will not stop me." Auntie's eyes fell to Jem at Lauren's side. "And you, the sorest waste of my life, the great traitor, I hope you sleep well thinking of all your brothers you killed today." Jem shifted slightly to half hide behind Lauren. "I killed no one," he mumbled. "You brought it on them, and all for the traitorous wretch whose skirts you hide behind. Or mayhap you do more than that with her skirts? Does she love you, Jem? Treat you like your mother treats you?" The weremage ran her tongue along the length of her lips, smearing blood across them. "You are not my mother," said Jem, his voice gaining a little strength, "and you never were." "Enough," said Damaris. Gregor stepped forwards and hit Auntie again, this time in the chest. Lauren heard something crack. Auntie screamed and then turned it into a laugh, returning her gaze to the merchant with a predator's smile. "Have your say or kill me," said Auntie. "Only please, cease to bore me." "You alone hold that power," said Damaris. "The door. How do we get in?" Auntie shrugged. "It has been so long, I can scarce remember. My mind has never been a good one and has only worsened with age, though you look to have twice that problem." Damaris rolled her eyes. "How clever. Search her. No, hit her again, and then search her." Gregor sent an obliging fist into the weremage's face. Her head snapped back, and Lauren feared her neck would break. But as she lolled forwards once more, Lauren could see that she still breathed, though her eyes wandered in all directions and she could not seem to see straight. A trickle of blood had erupted from one of her eye sockets, running gently down her cheek like a tear. Without ceremony, Gregor drew a knife and sliced the strings that held Auntie's jerkin together and then cut through the top half of her tunic. The weremage winced when the knife brushed skin. Lauren seized Jem and covered his eyes, but Gregor did not lay Auntie bare. Instead, he reached for something hanging on a chain around her neck and tugged. The chain snapped, and Gregor held up what Lauren now saw to be an iron key. "My lady," said Gregor. "Well done," Damaris smiled. "Now let us be done with this in a way. I dislike the smell of this place." Gregor turned to the hallway again. But then Lauren remembered the trap falling from the ceiling above, and her pulse quickened. She stepped forwards, blocking the captain's path. "Wait, there is—" Gregor batted her aside as he had Jem before. The crash of his hand on her chest felt like a warhammer. Lauren stumbled to the side, and with a cry she fell into the water of the sewer's channel. She struggled to right herself, the cloak dragging her down before she could free her arms and find the surface. She pulled herself to the edge of the channel where Jem seized her arms. "Are you all right?" He tried to pull her up, but an ant might as well have tried to lift a mountain. "I told you we would brook no more interference," said Damaris, her voice light. Lauren ignored them both, struggling out of the water and leaping to her feet. She ran to the hallway where Gregor stood facing the door. Damaris gave a cry, and one of Gregor's men made a grab for her, but Lauren twisted away from him and charged towards the captain. His hand rose and the key twisted in the lock. It stuck, and he tried to pull it back out. There was a snick and then a screeching crash. Lauren flew through the air, her whole body slamming into the back of Gregor's knees. The captain bellowed as he went down, and at the same time the iron grate fell from the ceiling. Lauren felt Gregor's body jerk atop her, and then still.
This has been a production of Legacy Books, written and narrated by Garrett Robinson. The music in this podcast was created by Will Musser. Check out his incredible work at willmusser.com. That's WILLMUSSER.com. Today's letter is N. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.